and welcome to this week's episode of the Purely Flowing podcast. I'm Adele and I'm founder of Pure Flow State, and we specialise in sustainable brand strategy for purpose-led businesses. Now, the name Pure Flow State comes from the concept of flow state, which was coined by an Hungarian-American psychologist named Michal Csikszentmihalyi to describe a moment when you're so in harmony with the present moment that you enter into a timeless bliss and you could do whatever it is you're doing forever. Wouldn't that be amazing if we could all do that in our businesses and our lives? So as a brand, I help businesses achieve that by getting everything aligned on the inside so that they can connect with the people that they need to on the outside. And these sessions are about talking to other business owners and friends about how they interpret flow state and how flow state affects their life. And they're about sharing stories to inspire and delight everybody on a Friday. And hopefully you'll go into the weekend feeling in flow. So this week, my guest is Ella Schwarz, and she is a transformative coach and EFT practitioner. And I'm really excited to have you here today, Ella. And we've got something a little bit special at the end of the session. So stay tuned, stick with it, and you're going to get a little gift at the end. So Ella, how are you flowing this week?
Thank you so much, Adele, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm flowing. I've been quite intentional about creating more space and ease and flow in my business lately. So I feel like that thinking is starting to pay off. So yeah, flowing.
That's good. Yeah, it's an unconscious state, but you have to be quite conscious about trying to get to it, don't you?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think it's a constant reminder. I don't think you ever kind of get to a point where, or maybe you do, where you're just automatically in it all the time. But I find that I've got to have little rules and little processes that I have in place to enable me to get into that state.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit today, talking about how you get into flow for yourself and how you help other people get into flow as well, especially around the areas of people pleasing and trying to quieten that inner critic. So talk us through a little bit about how you help people get over people pleasing, or the type of situations that you come across where people are getting into a cycle of doing that.
Yes. So, as a transformative coach, I specialize on supporting women with creating careers that I say light them up so that they can create a life they love. And I have a program called Clarity, that is 3 to 6 months long. And we just strip it back completely to what is it that you want, who are you, and where you're going. And I think people pleasing comes up in that quite a bit because often we follow rules quite unconsciously that we've just been told to follow ever since we were little. And so we do a particular course at uni, and then we take a particular job, and we climb a career ladder, and we do all these things that we're supposed to do. And then what can happen is that at one point we kind of wake up from this like trance, and we're like, oh my God, how have I gotten here?
Yes.
And I actually really don't like it. And then it's about really separating out what is you and what is other people, and kind of the systems that we're brought up in. And so we take it back to basics. We look at what are your values. We look at how does that show up in your personal and how do those show up in your personal and professional life. What do when you think about kind of your 80th birthday and you look back at your life, like what is it that you would like to have achieved? What are you proud of? What are people remembering you for things that you have chosen rather than what you've been told to do? And so yeah, it's quite deep work. It's quite uncomfortable work, I think, because to kind of wake up and kind of think you've been living on someone else's terms, is quite confronting. But once we kind of get over that and we put that aside, there's some real magic that can come from that.
And I love everything you said. And interestingly, going back to your values and your truth and what you believe in, it's actually quite similar for brands as well. Like in general, like getting, really embracing their values. But beyond that, getting back into the people pleasing thing, I know I'm definitely guilty of it. And it's very, very easy to get caught up in a cycle where you don't even know that you're people pleasing. And somehow it becomes a habit, doesn't it? And then
Mhm.
suddenly you wake up one day and you think, hang on a minute, I get to choose
Mhm.
what I do. And even that is quite scary, because when you kind of like, you go along, maybe you're going with the flow, you're just going along and carrying on in your life, doing all these things that kind of like one thing tends to lead into another, and then the next thing, and it's kind of, you know, getting the job and getting promoted and moving up the scale, and then suddenly thinking, actually, why am I doing this? Is this me doing this, or am I just kind of on autopilot going along, and because that's what's expected of me? And it's scary to get to that point, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I always say to people, it's not about kind of ripping up everything that you've done if you don't want that. It's about making a conscious choice about where you're going. So maybe you actually find that actually what you've been doing actually isn't that bad, and you just need to make a couple of tweaks, and
Mm,
you don't mind following that particular set of rules. But it's about getting out of autopilot and stopping to kind of sleepwalk through life and making an intentional choice about where you're going. And nothing has to
mm,
be immediate either. I'm working with someone at the moment who's planning for in 2 years' time because of the way her job is organized. So it's about, as you said, being kind of the grown women and the adult women that we are, and getting to make decisions and reminding ourselves that we get to make these decisions. Just
mm,
because your mother, your boss, whoever it is, says that you have to do things in a particular way,
yeah.
you don't have to do anything. I mean,
Mm,
yes, bills need to be paid, and you might have a mortgage, you might have children. All of that is very real stuff. But when you really boil it down, you don't have to do anything, but you
no,
can
you
choose
don't.
to do those things.
Yeah, I know. That was a big awakening for me at one stage as well, like thinking, hang on a minute, I can do what I want. You know, I'm an adult.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I can do
yes,
exactly what I want.
yes. And
I
I
want to
think,
have a glass of wine at night. I can have a glass of wine at night. Sometimes I even
yeah,
question that kind of thing. I'm
yeah,
terrible. I really am
yeah,
quite bad with it. I'm better now. I think in the work and professional environment, it hasn't really been an issue. I've always kind of made choices for myself, and I haven't been scared to do different things, or, you know, change, or try new things. I think it's been more in kind of like, you know, my personal life that I've had more of an issue with the people pleasing, especially around bringing up my kids as well, because you hear so many opinions from all different areas. From the minute that you're pregnant, even somebody's got an opinion about your belly.
hmm. Even before you're pregnant, when are you having children? How many children are you
Yeah.
having? All of these questions. It start, yeah,
Yeah, and it's like, well, maybe I don't want them, or maybe I do
hmm,
want them, or, you know, it's not something I'm going to discuss with you anyway, even if I do.
I know. And I think that's a big part. I think what I do as part of my program is that people leave with an action plan of, like, what are you doing, what's your next step, but also you leave with like a list of non-negotiables in both your work and kind of personal life. And it's just, and you write yourself a little permission slip at the end that you were allowed to uphold those boundaries,
Oh,
essentially those
I love that.
non-negotiables. And it's just a very conscious act of committing to what you've said is really important to you. So if you don't want to talk to this person on the weekend, you're allowed to not talk to this person on the weekend. If
Yeah.
you want to, I don't know, if you say you have the luxury of kind of taking Friday afternoon off, you get to do that, and you don't have to take meetings during that time. So it's just about intentionally creating, I guess, a life that
Hmm.
you love on your terms, and actively taking the steps to make that happen.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy that we actually have to give ourselves permission to do
Yeah,
those things, doesn't it? You know, I mean, I guess
yeah,
it comes down to boundaries, really, doesn't it? You know,
yeah.
it's setting out very clear boundaries. Um, I'm imagining that you find it very common to see people with fuzzy boundaries, or
Yes,
not very clear
yes.
boundaries. How do you approach kind of getting around that? Because is it first a case of people actually understanding that they don't have good boundaries in place, or any boundaries at all?
I think what it is with coaching is that I think the premise of it is that we know what we want. Deep down, we know what we want. We know what we need to cut out, but it all feels really jumbled and really overwhelming. And so what I often find is that you know who you need to cut out. You know what serves you well. You know what drains your energy. It's often more you haven't quite sorted it or come to terms with it yet. So often from early on, I can kind of see where this might be headed. But as a coach, I'll never tell you, you need to cut this person out or you need to stop doing that. I won't tell you that. I need you to come to your own conclusions around that. And so it's yes, people have fuzzy boundaries, but I think it's just because they haven't actively enforced them. Often people know what they need to do. They just need to think it through, to think through the repercussions, because there is repercussions, you know.
Yeah.
And then they have to make the conscious choice of whether they want to take that risk of those repercussions coming to be. And that's, I think, what coaching is. It helps you sort through all of that kind of all those jumbled thoughts, all of that you're holding in your head constantly. And it just helps you sort it, clarify it, and then take action on it, rather than hold it all in your head all the time.
Yeah, and thinking that you're alone with it, you know, just wrestling with it on your own. And, you know, I can only imagine, but it would be my belief that anyone who sets out boundaries doesn't regret setting out boundaries.
No.
It's
And I
not
think the
a
thing is
thing.
also, you can amend them. Like, you're allowed to amend them. Like, if you find, actually, oh, that was quite a hard boundary, and actually maybe I don't need to be so strict about it anymore because I've moved into a different headspace, or the person, say it's a person, is responding to that and making changes. You get to change your boundaries. It's not like we set them now and then until the end of time. Like, you have to live by these rules. Boundaries are allowed to evolve. Values are allowed to evolve. And I think it's that constant, it's actually knowing that sometimes we think if we make a decision now, it will be like that forever. And it's that kind of, oh my God, it's such a big deal. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to be wrong. What's really important, what I always say to people is, we just need to get you taking some action, because otherwise you're staying exactly where you are and you have failed. I don't like that word, but you've kind of failed already because nothing's changed. Whereas if you start to move forward, even if it's not 100% the right decision, at least you have that feedback and you can then move forward in a different way. And you can almost take that off and say, well, that wasn't quite the right turn. I need to work out something different. But we need to start moving, because just sitting there and being like, feel really well about life. Like, I don't really know where I'm going, don't know what I'm doing. And it's just been like that for years.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get out of that. We have, as far as we know right now, we've got this one shot, and you might as well like make the most of it.
I know. Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said earlier about kind of, you know, getting to 80 years old. And that's, you know, that same, I've heard it phrased in different ways of, you know, getting to your deathbed and thinking about, if you were there right now, I mean, God forbid, but if you were there right now, would you be happy with what you've done, or would you be happy with what you're doing? When you put it into that perspective, it changes everything, doesn't it? Thinking, okay, well, why aren't I taking action? Why aren't I doing something about the stuff that I don't actually like?
Yes. And we often think, oh, I'll do it next year. I was talking to someone yesterday who I was coaching, and we all have this thing where we're like, oh, well, I'll do it when X happens, or I'll do it when this and that aligns. But actually, say you've got a really big dream, you can probably live a smaller version of that right now. So this particular person yesterday was saying she wants to go on regular spa days. Okay, that wasn't in the budget, but how can you recreate that right now? Can you, on a Saturday morning, do your own spa day at home? Can you, rather than going for a spa day once a month, can you go twice a year? Like, how can you bring these things that are so far in the future? How can you bring them into your life right now and start living that version of yourself, rather than constantly waiting for external factors to kind of magically fall into place?
Yeah, and there are, it's like you say, there are different ways of achieving that, aren't there? You know, if spa day's the thing, well, you know, maybe have a look at a Black Friday offer, or maybe, you know, just or go and have an hour or two somewhere, combine it with something else, or do your own spa day at home as well.
Exactly.
I love doing that.
And so I love that kind of looking at, okay, so there's this kind of grand version of me that I kind of imagine myself being in 5 to 10 years time. Okay, well, that's a really long time to wait. So how can I bring some of that into my life right now? And that, I think, is really, really powerful, because you start getting glimpses of what it is that you want. You get glimmers of how that makes you feel, and then that will help you take more action to create what it is that you want. And it's almost like a domino effect, rather than just kind of sitting in misery. I'm
Yeah.
just constantly waiting for, well, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in
Yeah.
20 years' time.
Yeah. When the stars align and the universe
Exactly.
is at X degrees from Y and Saturn is circling, yeah, that's when I'll do it.
Exactly. And that's always the thing. What can you do right now? What tiny step can you take right now?
Yeah.
That's a really powerful question. What can you do right now? And often there'll be something you can do.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And that ties in very well with, everything that we've been talking about with the people pleasing and everything. There's the second thing that we were going to come on to today, all about the inner critic.
Yes.
And we've all got that little voice that sits on our
Yeah.
shoulder. Are you sure you want to do that? Aren't you
Yeah.
better off where you are? Like, at least you're
Yeah.
safe here.
Yes. And I think that's the key, right? Is to keep you safe. And I think once we understand that that inner voice isn't necessarily our inner truth, that's a game changer,
Hmm.
because you don't have to listen. Again, you don't have to listen to that voice. And once you realize that moving out of your comfort zone is just really unfamiliar and therefore feels unsafe, and therefore your brain is sending you all these kind of warning signs, um, you get to take action anyway, and you get to get comfortable with discomfort. I mean, I say that all
Hmm.
the time when I work with my coaches. I sit in discomfort like every single day, because I have to confront these things. I have to take, not I have to, I get to um, create all these new habits and practices, and a lot of it makes me feel really uncomfortable. But
Hmm.
I've just decided that I'm going to get comfortable with discomfort. And
Hmm.
so, and that's where the growth happens. That's where the unexpected happens. That's where what felt impossible happens. And so I say that to my clients all the time. If you're not willing to sit in discomfort, I'm not sure I'm quite the right coach for you, because we are going to move into spaces that feel uncomfortable. And I
Hmm.
can hold the space for you, and we can talk it through, and we can look at how we get you through that. But if you're just willing, or you only want to sit in your comfort zone and you're not happy to move out of that, that's going to be really difficult.
It's a paradox, really, though, isn't it? Because people will sit in the zone that they're in and say, "I hate it here, I need to change. Things
I know. You
things
don't
have to
even like
change.
it
I can't
there.
stay as I am, and take my money and help me change." But then there's something that won't allow them to change, well, themselves really
Yes,
kind of, blocking
yes.
that. And do you feel that there has to, I mean, obviously you can't force this change, can you? Like, the person has to be ready. Is there
Mhm.
any kind of sign that you're ready to get into that, or do you really just have to take the leap?
That's such an interesting question. I think it comes back to that thing of like deep down you're ready, which is why you've come and found me, and you've
Yes.
been willing
Yeah.
to kind of work with me and put your money into the program. But there is still that fear. So I think what I found is that I had one client who, before she came, she said, "There's just no way I can leave my job. I need the income, I need the stability, I need the security." 2 sessions in, she comes in, she left her job, got another job, sorted it all out with her husband in terms of the financial situation. And obviously that's a privilege that
Yeah.
she had, kind of
Yeah.
that double income. But this was someone who was adamant that it was impossible for her to even contemplate
Yeah.
leaving that job. And so I think what often happens is that the women I work with get to a place where what they're doing clearly isn't working anymore. They know they need to change, but there's still that fear. But there's something within them that is just like, look, I can't keep going in this way because this is
Yeah.
really detrimental to me. And
Yeah.
so they are ready and they're not ready. There's still that fear, that kind of real trepidation of, oh my God, I know I need to do something, but I'm just very, very scared. But there's also part of them which is like, look, I can't continue in this way. And then, so it's a bit of a combination of both. And then you just need to take a leap of faith and be like, okay, let's just go on this ride and see where we go.
Mm. I think yeah, it's a real trust, isn't it? I've
Yeah.
chosen this person to guide me. Wouldn't it be amazing if our inner voice was a coach? How could we switch
Imagine.
that on?
I know. I know. But do you know what's so amazing is that when I then work with the women, they start cultivating an inner coach. So then you almost have like two voices. You've got like the little part of you that's trying to keep you safe, just don't do it. And then they'll have like the coach voice, which is like, that's just your brain keeping you safe, and you just move out of your comfort zone, which isn't so comfortable after all. And they will say things that we've talked about in sessions to themselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's incredible when people start self-coaching and they start really embodying what we talk. I think it's just amazing to see.
Yeah, and I think it is possible, isn't it? With the, obviously the concept of neuroplasticity, where we can
Mhm.
change the way that we've been thinking and doing things for like 20, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
We can. I mean, it takes time and it takes commitment. And I think even if you've kind of like activated that inner coach voice, I think it still is going to take time, and you're still going to get that, that little, are you sure? You
Yes,
sure you want to do that?
because I think what I've realized is you don't arrive as this like magical version of you. Like that is an ongoing journey because your comfort zone just changes.
Mm,
And then you need to push yourself out of that. And then, you have like a bad week, and then that inner critic comes back. And it's a constant thing. And I think that's the one thing I've learned is that just because I'm having a great week doesn't mean I get to stop doing all the stuff that's got me here. Doesn't mean I get to take a break from tapping, from meditating, from my affirmations. That is the time I need to keep going because that's what's gotten me here. And I
yeah,
think often we think that, oh well, I'll just get there and then I'm done. I am fully formed and I will just live this magical life and I don't have to do any work. But that's not how it works, unfortunately.
no,
It's an ongoing practice
yeah.
and commitment.
Oh, it's daily work. It really is daily work.
Yeah.
Every single day. So what kind of small steps could somebody take towards, just noticing that inner critic when it's coming in, and trying to move through it?
I think
Perhaps, doing something that is a little bit out of their comfort zone, where, they want to do it, but they've got, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yes, so I think it first starts with awareness. You have to start paying attention to what your thoughts are saying. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts, many of them automatic, many of them negative. And so you need to start building that muscle of awareness. And then when you catch yourself, I always say, what would you say to a friend? The way we talk to ourselves is horrific in
It's
many, many
true.
instances. And if you said the things you say to yourself to somebody else, you would have nobody around you wanting to hang out with you. And so I always say when people get really hard on themselves, I say, just take a breather. And now think this was a friend coming to you with this exact same situation. What would you say to them? So I think coming at it from that angle is really helpful. And then the other thing I set my clients is a comfort zone challenge. So I have a reminder on my phone that tells me to exit my comfort zone every single day. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but it is a daily commitment to exiting my comfort zone. And that can be really small. It could be, if you have children, you might speak to another parent at the school gates. If you are at work, you might put your hand up to work on a project that you wouldn't normally work on. Like, doesn't need to be, I mean, those things might feel really major to people, but what I'm saying is it doesn't need to be, I'm going to go out and invest £10,000. It doesn't need to cost anything
Yeah.
or be anything hugely scary. It can be small things to just move you out of your comfort zone, and
Mm,
then you can layer up on that. And I think that's once people kind of get used to that, they're like, oh, I can do that. I can do hard things,
yeah.
and I'm still standing. Like
Yeah.
it has, And so I think it's an awareness and then a decision to try something different.
Yeah. It's kind of discomfort stacking, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's kind of, well, I did that, so I can do this. And you
Yes.
kind of get into a habit of doing things. And yeah, for me it might be just like getting out from under my blanket.
I know. For all of us at this time of year.
Throw off the blanket. No, I'm definitely in favor of that, and I love the idea of just setting a reminder and, doing something. I think I probably do something every day. I mean, the whole idea of this podcast for me was to get out of my comfort zone and do something, because loved and admired podcasts my whole life, huge consumer of podcasts, dreaming one day I'll have a podcast. And then it was like, well, why don't you just do it?
Yes, exactly. One day when I have 1 million followers and I feel really comfortable and I've done all of these other things, just do it now.
Yeah.
Just do it now.
What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. What is the worst that can happen? You do an episode or two, you decide it's not for you, and then you do something else. Although I would say stick with it longer than that. But that's the thing. Worst case, you try something different.
Yeah. And you did it and you didn't like it. So what? That's it. Yeah. Move on to the next thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned briefly there, you came onto tapping as a method that you use to, help get rid of that inner critic and calm yourself. So talk us through a little bit about what tapping is for those who don't know what it is.
Yeah. So tapping is incredible. I came across tapping probably about 6 months ago, 7, 8 months ago, when I was working with my coach who was really into tapping. And it's called emotional freedom technique, and it's an evidence-based technique that focuses on tapping the meridian points of the body. So those are the passageways through which energy flows. And it's really important to say that it's evidence-based, it's a proven technique, and it's used to relieve symptoms of negative experiences, emotions, things like anxiety, trauma, and even physical pain. And I always like to think of it as like acupuncture without the needles. So you basically just tap on these different points, and it's to clear energy blocks and program new beliefs. And the really powerful thing about tapping is that when you begin to embody those beliefs, you take aligned action. And I think that's the bit that's always really important. Like we can kind of sit and tap all day, we can sit and manifest, affirm, all of these things. We can do these all day and just kind of sit on the sofa and be like, please, like all of these things happen. But the bit that's really important is when they propel us into aligned action. And that is also where we then exit the comfort zone, and that kind of has that domino effect. And so, it's a really, really powerful thing to tap on anything really. So I trained as a certified EFT practitioner, and you can use it for pretty much anything, any kind of negative feeling, any emotions that you're feeling, you want to process and kind of move through and out of, and it's incredibly powerful.
I just want to stress that it's actually quite a fast thing to do that you can pick
Yes.
up at any time, and you don't need any external devices or anything like that in order to do it. You can just kind of like do it on your own time, and wherever you are, it's available to you, isn't it? It's a technique that's available to you at any time. A little bit like breath work,
Yes.
it's always there. You can tap into it whenever you need. So give me an example of a little practice that you could do, perhaps aligned with what we've been talking about today around inner critic and people pleasing, that kind of thing.
Yes. So I do tapping in the car. So when I come home in the mornings, I will sit in my car and I will do some tapping. And as you said, it's literally about 5 minutes. And you can really feel the effect. I use it in my sessions all the time when clients come in, really feeling overwhelmed, frazzled, really kind of exhausted. We just do a bit of tapping to kind of get them out of the funk. And then we go into the coaching bit and looking at what they want to do. And so I think it's brilliant because you get to really lean into in the first part of the tapping, you get to really lean into what it is you're actually thinking right now. That kind of negative headspace, you get to articulate it, to voice it. So you might tap around, even though I hate how I feel today, even though I don't believe that I deserve to live a good life, whatever it is you're telling yourself, you name it, you confront it, you recognize it. And then in the second part of the tapping, you then lean into what you actually want to think. So it'll be about loving yourself, believing that you deserve the best, believing that it can happen for you, and getting really specific about what it is you're trying to tap into. And then I mean, people see effects quite quickly. So what will normally happen is you will kind of look on a scale and see how the person is feeling. So let's say something like confidence. You'll say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel? Then you will do the tapping, And then you will check in again to see if they've moved up the scale. And often they have. And you can just do more rounds of it if you feel that they're still a bit stuck, or you can tweak the wording. You can kind of probe a little bit more about whether you're using the right phrasing. And then once kind of you move up the scale, then you can also rephrase it now that you're starting to feel more confident, and you tap around that and you just see people move up the scale. And I have clients who then tap outside of sessions, like, because often we record sessions, or I'll record them tapping. They've then just got like a 5-minute video on their phone that they can, as you say, just whip out anywhere, change the language if it's a different emotion they're feeling that they want to tap about. And it's super accessible. So I'm really passionate about, just really spreading the word about it and getting more people tapping.
I think it just breaks that spiral, doesn't it? In the moment, kind of like, okay, I can feel myself spiraling about this, whatever it is, this feeling that I'm having. It's not pleasant. I can feel it escalating and going and going. It's just kind of like, say, okay, we're going to break that now. And just tapping into those spaces. So you've got something prepared for us today.
Yes, I do. So I thought we can do a tapping around flow.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we will do 2 rounds essentially of tapping. One is looking at kind of the negative things people might be feeling, and then the other one is tapping into a state of flow and looking at that. So I'll just really quickly talk you through the tapping points. I know that you've done some tapping before, but for anyone who might have not, and then when we do it with the phrasing, you'll just repeat it after me while it's tapping on the spot. Does that on the point? Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we've got the karate chop point, and also it doesn't matter, by the way, which side of the body you tap on. So whichever hand feels most comfortable for. So we've got the karate chop point. We've got top of the head. We have got inside of the eyebrow, outside of the eyebrow, under the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone, and I would say bra strap. And then so we'll do that, and I will talk you through it, and you just repeat the phrasing after me. So we will start with the negative state, and then we'll stop, and then we'll go into the positive one.
Okay, let's go.
Brilliant. All right, so we're just going to tap on the karate chop, and I'm going to say, even though I feel completely out of flow, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel completely out of flow, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel so stuck and unmotivated, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel so stuck and unmotivated, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel like moving forward is so difficult right now, and I don't know where to start, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though, I don't know if I can remember all.
Even though I feel like moving forward is so difficult.
Even though I feel like moving forward is so difficult.
And I just don't know where to start.
And I just don't know where to start.
I deeply and completely
accept myself.
Yeah, top of the head. Sometimes I feel like it'll never happen to me.
Sometimes I feel like it'll never happen to me.
Like this way of being and feeling will never change.
Like this way of feeling and being will never change.
But still, I deeply and completely accept myself.
But still, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Inner eyebrow. Even though it feels as if work and life will always feel hard.
Even though it feels as though work and life will always feel hard.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Outer eyebrow. Even though the state of flow feels so inaccessible to me.
Even though the state of flow feels so inaccessible to me.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Under eye. Even though I have zero clue of how to get into flow.
Even though I have zero clue of how to get into flow.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Under the nose. Even though this lack of direction is so frustrating.
Even though this lack of direction is so frustrating.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Chin. I'm scared I'll always feel like this, and it's okay to acknowledge that.
I'm scared I'll always feel like this, and it's okay to acknowledge that.
Collarbone. Even though I lack clarity of how to get out of this, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I lack clarity of how to get out of this, I deeply and completely accept myself.
And under the arm. And even though flow feels so far away right now, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though flow feels so far away right now, I deeply and completely accept myself.
All right. So that was the negative part. So we're just going to quickly break state. And I just want you to think of your favorite food. Just to break the state, break the flow. You might think of waffles. You might think of sushi. You might think of Chinese takeaway, whatever it might be. We've broken the state. So we're now going to go into the positive things we want to believe around flow. So we're going to go back to the karate chop. And we're going to say, I choose to believe that coming back to a state of flow is right around the corner.
I choose to believe that coming back to a state of flow is right around the corner.
I believe that I can move forward.
I believe that I can move forward
with clarity, intention, and purpose.
With clarity, intention, and purpose.
In a way that completely aligns with who I am.
In a way that completely aligns with who I am.
And now that I choose to welcome flow back into my life.
And now that I choose to welcome flow back into my life.
I truly love and accept myself.
I truly love and accept myself.
Top of the head. Deep down, I know what I want and where I'm headed.
Deep down, I know what I want and where I'm headed.
I know I have all the tools within me.
I know I have all the tools within me.
And I know that I will come back to flow.
And I know that I will come back to flow.
Inner eyebrow. I know that I will find that thing I'm passionate about.
I know that I will find that thing I'm passionate about.
That will let me lose track of time. I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing.
That will help me lose track of time. I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing.
Outer eyebrow. I know that I deserve to be in a state of flow.
I know that I deserve to be in a state of flow.
Under eye. I know that I have all the tools within me to reach my goals.
I know that I've all the tools within me to reach my goals.
Goals that utterly and completely light me up inside out.
Goals that completely and utterly light me up inside and out.
Under nose. I choose to find my way back to flow.
I choose to find my way back to flow.
Under chin. I choose to listen to my intuition.
I choose to listen to my intuition.
And to let it guide me back to flow.
And to let it guide me back to flow.
Collarbone. I can welcome a state of flow whenever I want.
I can welcome a state of flow whenever I want.
I know that flow is on my side and it has my back.
I know that flow is on my side and it has my back.
And underarm. I choose to believe that I can create a magical, contented, and joyful life.
I choose to believe that I can create a magical and contented and joyful life.
For myself and those I love.
For myself and those I love.
And I truly choose to love and accept myself.
And I truly choose to love and accept myself.
And now this is something that I got from the Manifestation Collective. So if you just rub your hands together and you manipulate that energy and you just imagine that you're just pulling it apart and you can just really feel that energy, you just kind of wash over it, breathe it in, and then just take a big breath and out through the mouth. How do you feel?
I feel so lifted.
That's what I mean. That's what it does. And I think now is then when we would go into, what are we doing today? And someone who might have come in feeling very like, I just can't do anything today, is now like, right, okay, let's get into it. There we go.
Do you know what's interesting? I noticed that when we started tapping with the negative, I wasn't feeling that as much as when we got into the positive. I was saying the words, but I was actually feeling the words as well. It's totally different.
And you see people kind of start to smile. You see them lift. You just see people just really getting into it, and I just love it so much.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah. So I could go back, or anyone who's been listening can go back to that and switch out the flow
Yes.
for some other kind of state.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You could just switch it out. So I had someone who came, in a session, and we did it around anger, and then I know she's used it for just different, you should just put different words in it. And even if you you can obviously get someone to help you with a really personalized script, or probably have a go at doing that yourself, or you can find people, you can have a little Google now that you kind of see what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
You can make sure that the person is properly trained and kind of knows what they're doing, and then you can tap along with what they're doing. It's so accessible, and it's such a powerful way to just really like up the frequency and make, I think for me, it's like it's a decision to tap into a different energy.
Yeah.
And that's what I know it will do. So if I'm feeling in a funk, I will do this, and it's a choice I'm making. I don't want to feel that way. No, it's amazing, and that's what that's exactly what you're saying. I do it every morning, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever I've got, and then I move into my day. So
Sets you up for the day, doesn't it? It really does. But you could do it any time in the day. It doesn't have to be
yes,
in the
yes.
morning, night doesn't. Yeah. I feel
I know
like
a
really
client of
chill
mine uses it
now.
to go to sleep. Like she'll tap herself basically to sleep.
Yeah.
So, you can use it whenever works for you. You get
Yeah.
to choose.
We get to choose. Oh, I love that. Well, Ella, thank you so much for joining me today. I've absolutely loved this session. I hope everybody tapped along. And if you didn't, go back and tap afterwards, because I could highly recommend it. It's absolutely brilliant. Just before we leave, have you got any last piece of advice for anybody who's feeling out of flow and how to get themselves back into flow?
Exit your comfort zone. A big part of it is taking the leap to exit the comfort zone and do something that you truly love, and see how you can take even just a tiny step to get towards it. No one's telling you to immediately leave your job, start the new business, whatever it is you want to do. What is something small that you can do right now that will then get you into that state of flow, and you can build on that?
Yeah.
And it's just about do something about it. If you're still here talking about it, you're starting a new year, don't just go into the new year just talking about it. Do something about it.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant advice. And I think just one little thing that we can all do, just find something small and commit to that to start with, it's going to take us to amazing places.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Ella. I'm going to leave some links in the comments to where you can find Ella. She's got some stuff going on at the moment, some stuff starting in January as well that I'm sure everybody's going to be super interested to hear about. And if nothing else, tapping.
Exactly. Come and tap with me.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Ella.
much.